a slightly different tone where we look at cyber risk management, where we want to focus on building operational resilience. I think one of the main things that coming out this whole digital forensics and so forth is the results or the effects of cybercrime on every single business. So for ado, I don't think this information is actually on the internet, so I'll just move on a little bit further. So obviously, you know my name already 3 years into the decade itself of different areas like ICT and telecommunications and cybersecurity. It's very strange that persons operate in this level or start in electronics or some form of computer science and so forth, and then anything to this particular area. And one of the greatest things I like is that, you know, from these particular type of engineering backgrounds, we deal a lot with different types of systems or management systems, etc. And it helps us to look at cybersecurity, or in this particular case, digital artifacts. How can you do something, get the necessary results, protect what you have, improve it, give you what you want, and in case of an event, you're able to analyze it correctly. And this is the same thing with cyber risk management. How can you defeat or enhance your infrastructure against cyber threats or cyber criminals? So my affiliation, the EU CyberNet Expert Pool. What they do is experts within that pool that goes across the world doing what we're doing here right now. This is going to be something similar with the Commonwealth. This is something that recently started first in Africa. Now it's coming to the Caribbean. And what they're going to be looking at is the policy development. And in my general communication this morning, I would have mentioned CARICOM Impact. Something that's maybe familiar with CARICOM Impact on the regional security system. They're going to be working with CARICOM Impact in terms of trying to affect cybersecurity and cybercrime policy within the region itself. So obviously, CISSP, I'm part of the member of the Institute of Technology, Chartered Institute of Information Security. I'm also an assessor and interviewer for cybersecurity professionals coming into the institute in England. ISA International, I'm also a PECB trainer, and I'm also part of the PECB Focus 15 group, where we look at different certifications and training and try to match that there in terms of those who come into the field. And it's not only within cybersecurity, but like ISO 9001, etc. So a little bit of my business, not too much. We really into building cybersecurity more from an international and framework approach using ISO standards and stuff like that. In an environment where it's becoming heavily regulated, unfortunately, because many times businesses are unable to do what they're supposed to do. It has to be heavily regulated. So you have data protection. In Europe, now we have the EU AI Act. You also have DCR, the NIST, and so forth. In America, federal, you also have the NIST. Within the region, you don't have anything. So I think under the Commonwealth, we'll see what we can do with the CARICOM Impacts to see if we can. There is a general framework that's out there, but it's not enacted through the Caribbean itself. All right, so let's get started. I think I still have quite a bit of time. So in today's businesses, they are very heavily digital transformed, which means they're data driven and they're driven by data analytics. So data, as we already know, they've been speaking to the choir already, data is what runs the business. So risk is no longer to systems and infrastructure, but to critical data. So risk to data affects not only confidentiality, integrity, and availability, but we now have a new term today, privacy. And as you already know outside the banking industry and some other industries, all businesses are now held accountable to privacy-related issues, from data protection laws. Regardless if you're in Barbados, you have a number of different persons within your database on different jurisdictions. Then you have that application, and if you have that breach, everyone has to be notified. And what we are seeing globally is more digital liabilities coming, class action suits and so forth against companies. So not only you have to worry about recovery and so forth, you have to now worry about your clients or stakeholders now suing you because you have not done enough to protect their data or intellectual property, etc. So, digital transformation, this is some of the digital transformation technology, artificial intelligence, big data, heavy on data analytics, cloud computing, another area in Barbados where we are deploying within the cloud. Are there any cloud policies? Is it data sovereignty? Those are the type of questions. Deploying the cloud is nice, but many times some persons don't look at the fact or remember that in the event of an incident, how quickly can you recover from the cloud? And one thing to remember that. So when you buy in cloud services, they also have a speed, a rate, 5 megabits per second. Imagine 5 megabits and at home you have 100 megabits or so. So you can imagine trying to recover gigs of data to get your system back up. Sorry, not even terabytes. Okay, so you have mobile and 5G. Not quite sure how that's developing here within the region they are, but 5G is continuing to evolve. It's very data-driven infrastructure. So what you have as data issues within your network, the mobile system is going to have that same problem. You have to have API integration, and obviously Internet of Things, which changes in industry by IoT, etc. Medical devices, etc. So, what are the well-known cybersecurity attacks? We're going to look at this here as we get more into managing cyber risk. Well-known cyber attacks within the region. I decided to put Costa Rica first because Costa Rica is one that we, as within the region, have to understand what cyber terrorism can actually do to a company or country. So you have the private here, down the road is government. And they have suffered, they had the energy company had a ransomware attack, the digital trade payment. Further down, they also affected their government. Cyber criminals, which you could almost say cyber terrorists, no, was their vendetta to make sure that the government actually paid by having more, causing more operational losses than government itself. We all know about the Barbados Revenue Authority. Just when it was last week or 2 weeks ago, we had the minister highlighting about the bond fund or something like that there of $50,000. And I guess if the government was not involved in it, we would not have heard anything. But the fact is that there have been a disconnect of how we can connect breaches to how it affects everyday life from you as an individual who works within a company. If I compromise you, I compromise the company. And how does that look on the international scene if information being shared that's supposed to be private? I want to set up business here, and I have stiff competitors in $1 billion or $1 billion industry. Is my information being shared? Who have access to it? So all these things become very important, especially for government when it comes to business. We had a 2022 Master Cybersecurity Act, as I already mentioned. We have Lex Caribbean. They suffer ransomware attack. Lex Caribbean is a law firm, and law firms continue to be attacked by cyber criminals, and that rate is actually going up. The reason why is that they have rich level of data, cases and so forth, and I would like to ask my friend here, in case there's a breach where there's a confidentiality statement between the lawyer, if that gets so, what happens outside of general privacy, because that confidential information is lost between the lawyer and the client. We also have Kitts and Nevis, they are close. Remember the QEH. So there's a lot of attacks going on within the region. We know about them. We heard about investigations, but what does it mean to us? How are we taking care of that cyber hygiene within our own organizations? So we're looking at the digital. Why is this happening? As we all know, our digital footprint is expanding. So we are using a lot more of AI. There's we're feeding information into AI or general information, or we are doing some form of project, and again, we're using some online AI. Fact is that majority of, let me see here, outside of the cloud service application and third parties, maybe business enabled applications, maybe office equipment, but definitely with AI, you're using other person's infrastructure, different large language models and so forth, how they're communicating, how they're being updated, how is that information being shared? Do you have information leakage that goes on that you might not be aware of? And the same thing goes for cloud applications and cloud services. In the event that you start paying or you move from one cloud provider to the next, are they still holding on information? Those are the type of questions that come through governing policies that we will talk about as we go further in cyber risk management. So, what are some of the cyber threats businesses are facing? Unfortunately, we don't have very good, or if any, data out of the QRB. And I think that's one of the reasons why we are not taking cybersecurity very serious, because we see the results. Somebody starts saying, it takes hundreds of millions or at least an average of $4 million to recover and so forth. And we know we don't have that money here. So those statistics don't really work so well in our region. But because of the lack of statistics, we are unable to understand the risk itself. Right? So ransomware attacks have increased, and this is for we are in 2024 and then looking at 2023. So ransomware attacks have increased by 95%. We have exploitation of digital assets, vulnerabilities. We also have undetected malware, which still plays a great part. Obviously, when you have a ransomware attack and you have C2C or command and control, obviously you have to drop malware to do some additional work, and especially encryption. So again, anything you have a ransomware attack and you have encryption, obviously malware. So therefore, how good is the ER configured properly, etc. We still have credentials authenticated email phishing that's up by 400+% 2022 to 2021. I haven't seen data between those years, but it has gone up. The fact is now, if you think about Barbados and you think about breaches where emails are out there, your whole life is out there, what you do and etc. It means then that, let's say for our region now, especially Barbados, you can definitely see that number of sophisticated phishing emails is up, especially one we would have saw a week and a half ago. Business email compromises still an issue. Distributed attacks has been up for this year, and also be very familiar with supply chain attacks. So these are the risks that businesses and governments, etc., are being faced every single day, every single moment. When I used to be in operations, just in government, I can tell you almost every second you see a few high-risk critical attacks every single second. So when a person say that you have 1 million attacks in a day, believe it. It's just that your security has gotten a little bit better through technology to be able to work the general tasks that are looking to exploit your digital assets. These are the extortion tactics of the cyber criminals or within cybercrime itself. And if you look between 2021 and 2023, you can see, and this is one of the areas that the digital forensic persons who are doing investigation in cybercrime unit will be looking at. The fact is that, and if some of you have been following the trend, usually before you have an encryption attack or ransomware attack, encryption, and then you have extortion. But now there are some instances where you don't even have to encrypt, but they're forcing you, like what the last is force the government. If you don't pay, so you're looking at harassment. If you don't pay, we can sell this data. You want this risk. So we can see that the harassment, I wouldn't be surprised that we know over 32% when the information comes out for 2024. We can see data theft has gone up throughout the years. Data is money. Good data is used to train, and as we saw in Europe, where some companies like Google and others are now facing loss because they use data to train their scraping for off the internet. Here is it. So we have, let's look at between 2021 and 2023. This is for all sectors. You see that software API vulnerabilities have gone up. APIs being able to integrate. You have a main service and you have different applications that can operate on data in many different ways to provide some level of service. We also have social engineering has somewhat gone on, but remember that social engineering is now more strategic now. It's not just a vast information that's being sent out now compared to over the last couple of years. We also have, let's say, some brute force attacks. They're still existing, and this is going to continue to grow, which is the compromised credentials. So whenever your company is attacked or there's some form of breach, we all know that we as humans, we tend to always reuse passwords. So if you have compromised or have data, it doesn't take long for you to tap that person or use that person to try to access information online using existing passwords that are already known, that has already been breached. Just a little bit more. On the right-hand side, this is demonstrating. This is something from the digital forensic side. There's a lot of lateral movement. Before it was a little bit less because you just come in and encrypt and force the person to pay. Now, because data is key, you want to be able to maximize your extortion. So you're going to have a lot more lateral movement through the organization. Obviously, you're going to have exfiltration, the impact. And what I should have done is show over the years, but this is information you can easily pull up from over, look at credential access and command and control. So obviously you have to get into the environment, command and control afterwards, and then you start going forward from there. So this is Palo Alto Network. It's one of the leading companies when it comes to cybersecurity from their particular realm. This is 2024 Global Incident Response Report, and they are highlighting how many minutes it takes for an attacker to exfiltrate information out of your environment. So you start the clock with a phishing email, initial start 30 minutes, reconnaissance 15 minutes, privilege escalation 45 minutes, data exfiltration starts, you start making account modification, then the prep the ransomware deploy, everything done within 30 hours. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's even more. So if you think about it for your organization, this happened possibly, and I have seen being part of investigations, an email lands late the evening, and by 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, you come in and see machines encrypted. And when you go back through, you see this whole process. That is why it's very important when it comes to procurement or solutions and so forth. You need to have a digital artifacts. When you look at the QVH could not identify what information is lost, except to go to every single machine, and that's it. So when you have a digital artifacts, you can actually improve your level of response to the public. It definitely shows your cyber hygiene that you can respond and say, you know what, this information has been lost. We, through the firewall will say, you know what, we had from multiple sources, we had about a terabyte of data loss. This is the peak, all that sort of stuff. Digital artifacts are very important because remember, it is not if you're going to be attacked, it's when. And in many cases, I think here, in many cases, is many organizations are sometimes hit within the next month or within that year of being compromised again, because they think they have done enough, but they haven't really truly. This in itself is a little bit more data, and this is now out of Europe. And what it is showing is the percentage of the total sector, looking at the type of attacks, and you see the public domain, you have the DDoS attack. Europe has been doing quite a bit of work to strengthen and holding chairmen and boards, software developers, and so forth responsible. So when you start tightening security, you're going to find that the cybercriminals have to be more strategic in terms of getting the organization. So you're going to find that if you have a very good security posture, one of the ways is that you can prevent operations through a denial service, hitting a website, a particular service. And if you don't have those things configured properly, then you're going to have some level of extortion. They will say, you know what, if you do not pay a certain amount of money, we will ramp up DDoS on your business itself. So if you look at transport, banking itself, you can see some level of DDoS. but you have a slowing down or some increase of the different threats that you can see there. This is done within the Caribbean. This is not really a partner, but company that we work with in terms of getting the statistics. I must admit, these are what has been recorded. There is no need within the Caribbean region to report any form of breach or cybersecurity attack. So these are the ones that many companies could not get away with or might have just reported and listed, but they correlate results, just like what you're going to hear from Magnet. They're going to correlate the results for what is on the internet, what is reported, what is in the news, and etc. And this is the Caribbean. If you look at within the sector itself, let's say the highest, we have finance, we have IT services and communications, rich part to really have, infiltrate customers. As you can see, these numbers are low. Is it a possibility that we are 2 times that, 8 times, 10 times? We really just don't know. And after the breach that we had twice, we had the statistical service, which was the last one that we are aware of. We have the BRA issue. What is it going to look like for 2025? So therefore, cyber risk management team. So what are the cyber risks to the businesses? This is something all of us already most probably know already. We have operational losses due to unavailability of systems, services, processes, and facilities. For standard, we don't mention facilities, but we have to keep that in mind. Utilities could be, you actually bring a connection, you have majority of services in cloud, bring a connection, or you can operate majority applications, right? We have data breaches, compromise of and infected emails, some things that I think we should expect more this year. Insider threat and third-party risks. We need to expect more of that there because many businesses today do a lot of third-party support, not outside of Barbados, but elsewhere. Unauthorized access to systems and information, loss of system services, processes, and data integrity, and financial fraud. And financial fraud has many different faces, but it's something that we also have to look at, obviously, in 2025 after the number of breaches. So what are some of the reasons for businesses being exploited by cyber criminals? Not quite sure if many of you are aware, but we have critical infrastructure called CI, and then we also have critical national infrastructure. Critical infrastructure could be like electric generation, water and so forth, but they can also be classified under the national government perspective. You'll hold massive amount of data like law firms, etc. Majority of businesses are operating at low cybersecurity maturity levels. That means that the cybersecurity awareness and capabilities are not where it's supposed to be. Remember that we are dealing with cyber criminals that have a lot of money. This is their job. Get up on this. This is my job. It's now your job now to make sure that you need to protect your businesses. Lack of competent information security professionals, that still seems to be a problem there. We continue to advocate to businesses, don't shy away from cybernation persons or other persons. You can take if you want a person like myself, I don't know who else is a cybersecurity expert here, but you take them and you bring into the organization, they expect to see certain things. They come with their own culture. But when you take a person and you can mold them and adjust to your culture, it means then that they're more in tune, they understand your environment to protect it very well. Inadequate security budgets, nothing new here, but that needs to really be beaten up. Utilization of obsolete hardware and software, we're all aware of that, hospitals, businesses, and so forth. That comes into play when you're dealing with a lot of some level of Internet of Things devices, etc. Utilization of emerging technologies, AI. It could be SaaS solutions or whatever else. There's no policies there to say what information, how it should be set up. Many times in government, something clerks set up a cloud account. Imagine that. We all in IT here in this room. Imagine a clerk setting up an account for an cloud infrastructure. Doesn't make sense, but it happens. And this really should be first, right? But it last. They don't want to hurt persons. Cybersecurity is really not our number one priority. And you got to be honest. It really isn't. When you look at a business, you're trying to pay. You have payroll. You have services. You have other types of important matters that the boards consider. cybersecurity is not number one, as Neil would have mentioned earlier. Anything having to do with cyber, anything technical, get past the IT very, very quickly. So, different tune in 2023 and 2024, we move from cybersecurity and start looking at more of cyber resilience. As infrastructures start to become heavily digitized, organizations are relying more on software or applications like data analytics, etc. You cannot be afforded to be done anymore. Cannot. So therefore, when we look at cyber resilience, is our primary goal to encompass and maintain cybersecurity preparedness, ensuring essential businesses functions during disruptions, swiftly restoring critical operations post breach, and utilizing attacks insights to enhance overall cyber capabilities and business resilience. Because in the end, if you ask the CEOs or chairmen or whoever is watching, in the end, you really don't really care about cybersecurity in a sense. You just want your business to operate. You need to make money. You need to satisfy your stakeholders, your investors, and so forth. So from the government's perspective, they care about business resilience. So we have to tie cyber resilience or digital operation resilience to business resilience. It must be managed at that level. So in other words, it involves preparing for, responding to, rapidly recovering from a range of cyber risks, enabling businesses to maintain operations with minimal disruptions. Later on, the guys are going to talk about the digital artifacts that allow you to understand the attack and also to strengthen your own infrastructure. Because having these insights means that if you do not have like thorough pen testing and other programs within your organization, investigating an incident shows up fast that you can actually improve your operations afterwards. Unfortunately, it's after the fact. So today's business are data-driven, therefore developing comprehensive cyber resilience strategies is imperative to protecting the business, its stakeholders, partners, clients, customers from cyber risks. Therefore, adopting an encyclopedic approach to managing cyber risk is essential to reducing the impact on the business and achieving this goal. It is management ultimate responsibility to support cyber risk management in managing cyber risk and integrating them into the overall risk management program for oversight and continuous support. So what this is really saying is that this risk or risk coming from cybercrime or cyber terrorists, etc. You think about it, businesses still operate on traditional risks within the region. If you think about it, it's the financial, maybe some level with infrastructure damage and so forth. But when it comes to cyber, it is still hand off to IT, and you're not able to manage that risk as effectively as much as possible. So having a cyber risk array board who's able to take your risk. Some of you here between IT and so forth have dual hat roles, being able to understand that risk and able to feed that. They're not in technical language, but in boards and the CEO language to say, hey, this is what your risk look like in terms of seeing this amount of attacks. We just deploy a particular solution. Here's the risk if that is compromised. In other words, information is breached. You can have liable fines. So you have to sometimes connect the dots, not in technical terms, but in their own language. So track the business cyber resilience program, obviously we will mention, but again, in the cyber resilience program, we're really looking to build resilience, to be able to continue to operate when an incident occurs. Insufficient security budgets, ineffective information security programs. There are many businesses that they have a verbal program, but there's nothing that's documented. They have insufficient cyber risk awareness, not only within the general staff, but also at the top. Inadequate cybersecurity tools, inadequate backup and recovery strategies, lack of compliance, and poor cybersecurity hygiene. So usually, sometimes even in the event of an incident, you have a situation, and anyone here that has took part, anyone here ever took part in recovering from an incident? Okay. So you have a situation that when you recover from the incident, now you need to make sure that your recovery does not have the actor still in your environment. So I want to ask the question, why do we then even rebuild it? So you're going to recover, and then you have to go ahead and scan. So like for instance, for us, we deal with technology, do an instant placement. So it's almost like a virtual software present a virtual image of what the system is accessing. So in the event that that information become corrupted, you just replace that virtual image. So your recovery is very quick. And then it gives you, so you cut that downtime in terms of recovery down to minutes or hours, depending on how much data it is. But now you can use the tools, because if you had the tools before, it might not have happened. You don't have to use the tools now, along with digital like marketing investigation, depending on if it's within your business, or let's say within an investigator that you most probably retain. The idea is now is to look at those artifacts, see when you recover, regardless if it's on the system or you recover from your backup, if those remnants are in the backup. That is what delays the process majority of the time, because you now have to go to not only strengthening other configurations on the firewall and other software in terms of more hardening, you now have to make sure that C2C communication, certain lateral movements, because now it's more going after your data across the plane. You now have to determine if that adversary is still in the environment, and that takes a very long time, especially when you don't have the tools. All right, so cyber risk management and preview. Management involved in security governance is based on the organization context. I'll talk a little bit more, so have some time. Security policy development. We're also going to, in that risk management, you're also looking at the comprehensive cyber risk assessment aligned with international compliance standard. In other words, if you are doing cyber risk management, it has to be aligned to a standard, either the ISO 27001 on NIST, and they have a set of controls that occur at the governance, identification, protection, you have also the response or being responsive, and also recovery. And those are a range of controls. Like for instance, I did a SOC 3 like assessment of a national here in Barbados in the region. And there were over 316 questions I went through with persons definitively. And there are other security standards that actually have more, but essentially you could kind of break it down. But those are the type of controls that we were looking at. Cyber risk awareness training is also very key within the risk management program. Strategic security control development and implementation through risk management procedures and processes. So your security controls are derived from looking at the risk within the infrastructure, within the organization context, or within the business landscape, business threat landscape. Business and enhanced incident management, crisis management, crisis communication, and business continuity controls. So when you look at your cyber risk management program and you're building it out, you already acknowledge that you will be compromised because of the industry that you're working in, and especially data protection, which exists throughout the world. So unlike the banks, unlike maybe we don't have PHI and so forth here, like HIPAA and stuff like that, but we have data protection. So what is happening is that how do you handle, especially if you have a real full outage or very lavish for the perpetrator data breach. So let's take the statistical department. They say they lost some data, that some surveys, and we know when they have surveys that go all over the country. So that may be more lavish, possibly, than the viral. So therefore, you need to understand how do you treat this crisis, because now this could be large fines, this could be greater risk within so many other areas, etc. Because we might talk about cybercrime, but it doesn't stop a normal criminal from going online to find out where you live, what is your telephone number. So if you connect the dots, it's not only something to cybercrime, but you also look at personal safety. Testing and continuous monitoring, reporting, and program improvement. Testing is very critical. Continuous monitoring and reporting provides you not only the information, but the artifacts that when companies like market comes in to do their work, they come in and do it as effective and efficient as much as possible. You don't have to spend time doing a lot of work. And then the program continuous improvement is where you look at that information, you're able to write to your boss and actually improve, if not getting further training, more awareness training, better risk evaluation processes, etc. It's going to help your program to be continuously improved. Or if you want to talk like a management system on the ISO level, you're looking at a whole program that looks at the context, or what we call plan, do, check, act. So you have through that whole process being able to continue to improve that information security program or cyber risk management program. So what's to remember, because we finish, digital transformation has inherent cyber risk that can affect the reputation of your business. Also, management, you have strategic risks too. Focus more on cyber resilience than on cyber security. Understanding cyber risk is crucial for cyber risk management. That's very important. And digital forensics and incident response is vital throughout the incident management program life cycle. Again, you will be attacked. The idea is how quickly you can recover, and do you have the data artifacts to help you strengthen your system beyond that incident itself, what you can actually improve. So strategic advice, last page. By establishing a robust cyber risk management program, your organization can effectively and efficiently craft a strong, resilient, cyber resilient strategy that fortifies the safety and security of its data assets. This proactive approach not only safeguards valuable data and enhance data privacy, but also cultivate digital trust, something that is slowly being eroded within the region, but it's not only here, it's all over the world. You have to look at America and so forth, and significantly diminish potential digital legal liabilities. So in other words, you want to reduce, especially when it comes to the board of the business, any form of lawsuits that could come before you, not only from the data protection authorities or data commissioner in general, but also from common stakeholders believing that you have not done enough to safeguard the information, the safety, etc. To ensure the success of this initiative, the program must adhere to an international recognized security standard, such as the ISO 27001, or utilize a framework like the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0, the new one has been released. Investing in these best practices will position your business for long-term security and resilience, and increasing within the digital threat landscape. So that's about it. I don't know if there are any questions